Welcome, everyone. This
Hello.
is episode 2 with my dear friend Dmitry Dima. You also might know him as the Rubashka Russian dystopian streetwear guy.
That's right, that's me.
That's you. Dude, what have you been working on?
So right now I'm working on like a fall and winter clothing line, so like beanies and sweatpants and stuff like that. I'm getting some stuff trademarked and just I release new designs every month, so it's just continuing on with that.
When was your last drop?
It was in September. I re-released some older designs in new colors and some other things as well. I'm not going to be dropping anything in October because I'm working on some bigger stuff for this fall and winter lineup.
Actually, let's take a couple steps back.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we jumped into your streetwear brand, but I think for anyone who doesn't actively follow your stuff, I mean, you are really active on Instagram and social media. But to anyone who doesn't know what you do, talk about you starting. Like, what was the catalyst for this now business that is your baby?
So I started like 2.5 years ago. It was the end of 2016, starting into 2017. And this is what happened. I wanted to do a brand, and I was thinking about it for like a couple months and trying to find a name, but there's so many names taken. And then I was looking in a dictionary of like obscure English words, and one of them was Rubashka, and I was like, hey, that's a Russian word, and that just means like shirt, like a button-up shirt. And I was like, that'd be a really funny name to go with, just like call it like Shirt Company. And it rolls off the tongue. It's a really fun word, and for like an English speaking audience, they might not know what that means. So I started thinking about that, and then nothing happened for like a month or two, but then I call it an epiphany, but I woke up, and right when I woke up, I saw this gas mask, like this like Soviet gas mask that a lot of people, you can get on eBay, they have them. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, that'd be a cool like concept, like a cool brand idea to make it based off like Cold War themed and stuff like that. And it would combine like Russian culture and American culture since they have such a rich history together. So that would be like a main basis for the brand, but not everything about the brand. It goes off to other things too, like dystopian and stuff like that, and the end times, like cool themes like that I like to do.
Really fun, cynical, but also you kind of have the flexibility to make fun of stuff, which is really, really interesting, especially in this time where I feel like it's almost kind of hard to make fun of things without some sort of backlash. Not in any PC kind of way, but just it's hard to reinterpret. It's hard to kind of think, how can I put a spin on this without feeling like you're just plagiarizing or just adapting something for yourself.
Yeah, like I released like so the streetwear brand Supreme, they make their box logo hoodies, and Owen's wearing one right now.
I am wearing one. For all the video listeners, I am wearing the box logo, but it's not his logo. It's the Communist Hammer and Sickle logo.
Yeah, and the reasoning behind that, it's not like, oh, I'm a communist or I support communism. The point of it is Supreme and the whole like hypebeast kind of streetwear market is super based on capitalism and like production and buying and like money, and it's like all ingrained in that. So I thought it'd be funny to juxtapose like the communist flag against that, and it'd be like the ultimate irony. So that's the whole concept behind that hoodie.
Well, tell me about your personal skin in the game with this concept, because I mean, if you've seen the episode of this podcast, you can tell you have a very Russian name.
Well, my name is Dmitry, and I was born in Russia, and then my family and I, we immigrated here in 1997. So I wasn't born as a Soviet citizen, but my parents were, so they grew up in that, and they experienced that lifestyle and everything. So me doing this brand it's kind of funny because my parents, they didn't have a lot growing up, they didn't have a lot of clothes and stuff like that, and to sit here in like an apartment that's twice as big as what they had and where I was born in, it's kind of a blessing, and it's kind of cool that I can like have a clothing company and like it's awesome like how far it went.
Your brand is like every part of your personality kind of wrapped into one. Mm-hmm. It really is your mind child. Like, it's the glove that's fitting on your right hand, you know?
Yeah.
I think this has been the most fun thing for us, because we've been friends for quite a while now, because we went to school together, we did design together. When did we meet? How did we meet each other?
We got assigned a project where it was like we had to swap work with another person, reinterpret it for like some branding or something. So I got your work and I did stuff that, and you got my work.
What project was that? I can't remember.
I think it was in Pablo's class.
Yeah.
And I was kind of intimidated by Owen, to be honest. I was like, who the heck is this guy? Like, I don't really know him. But
I mean, you had already made one. I think you'd already made a Rubashka shirt at that time.
Yeah, I was kind of formulating the brand at that time, so.
Because I mean, it started with one shirt.
Yeah.
It started with just. It was your list of bands.
That was the second shirt. The first shirt was just the old logo. It's not in use anymore, but okay. Yeah, that is like the first shirt that like. It's the first shirt, but it's also the second shirt, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first shirt that I felt like you were pushing out there, and you were like, this is the shirt.
Like a new concept.
Yeah, which was fun. The idea of it was that there was a list of musicians and bands that were banned under the communist bloc, under the Soviet Union. And yet, didn't some of them still get to play and drew out some of the largest crowds like ever recorded? And I mean, like, it might have been later on when the Soviet Union was no more, but it was still crazy.
American rock music definitely helped play a part in like deconstructing the Soviet bloc and ending communism and stuff, and people would, crave American culture, and which is funny now because Americans crave other cultures, like Japanese culture. People really like that here with clothing and with cars, and right now I think like the Russian Cyrillic kind of culture and streetwear is pretty big, but that's not why I do because it's literally personal to me.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's your story. It's the most fun thing.
Well, the thing that I like about running my own brand is like no one is in charge of me of how I do it. So like every piece I release is it's personal, but people can still relate to it. Mm-hmm. Like I make like kind of dystopian themed stuff because I really like that genre of movie and like science fiction, stuff like that. And even there's this t-shirt like that says "Peace is our profession."
It's probably my favorite. It's one of my favorite shirts that you put out.
Yeah,
I love it so much.
That shirt is based off of like the Air Force. They had that motto in the 1950s and 60s. And it was kind of cool because I was at the fair, the Linden Fair in the summer, and I was wearing that shirt. And there was this old guy there, and he understood the reference, and he liked it. So it was cool, like, people of all ages can understand and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I get questions whenever I wear it, because my mom works with a lot of Ukrainian Russian immigrants, and whenever I'm wearing a piece of your clothing, they ask, like, why are you wearing a shirt that says shirt, or a hoodie that says shirt? He's like, do you know what that means? I'm like, yeah, I know what it means, and it's all the more funnier whenever I get like a look or approach about it.
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's like people sometimes need to chill out and not take themselves too seriously, so that's why it's really funny, like, to name your shirt, like, clothing company, shirt company.
I take that one step further with putting yourself out there. I mean, you in some way are one of my bigger influences. I'll be honest, like, you're partially my hero, because you made a single shirt in college in design school and then turned it into a full-fledged business that supports you and is your passion. Like, you won. You succeeded. You found happiness in a way of telling your story and providing a product for other people to buy.
Yeah.
That to me, that is like success in a package wrapped up in one.
See, that's why I'm really happy to see you doing the podcast, because podcasting is cool. I listen to podcasts, and you can go really far with it. You just have to keep going with it. And I like how, like, so if you want to do something, this is advice for people, and like it's rolling around the back of your head, you just have to go and do it. Like, you're going to fail.
That's what you did. That was
yes.
like your internal process.
I was really intimidated by it because it's like, oh, I have to run a business. I don't know anything. But every large business and every large endeavor, it starts with one step. So if we look at 100 miles, we're like, that's a really far distance. But 100 miles is made up of 1 mile. Each of us can cover a mile. Mm-hmm. So you do one step at a time and you'll get to the level you want to be, whether that takes 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years, however long you take it with you. So I would say to anyone that wants to do like a passion of theirs, you have nothing to lose, and this is one of the best times to do it. Like, the internet will not discriminate against you. You can be whoever you want to be and just put out content, put out your brand, put out your image, and if it's good and if it has passion in it, people will like it and they'll flock to it.
The internet is still so young. And I feel like a lot of us younger designers right now are like, there's all these giant brands exist, mm-hmm. all the technology companies. Where's the room for new, or the small business, or my idea? Like, there is still so much space mm-hmm. between the cracks of these other businesses for you to launch your thing, for you to grow in your skills, for just your idea to exist. Mm-hmm. Because these ecosystems are so complicated, and the internet allows you to like just decrease overhead. I mean, like you said, you're putting out small batches of stuff. Mm-hmm. You don't have employees, you don't have people working with you. You just do, and you put out. And if you're telling 100% of the truth, if you're telling your story, mm-hmm. and you think you're providing value, someone else out there is going to find that valuable too. Someone else there is going to buy into it.
And like what you said, you might think, people might think, oh, there's no room left for me in the game, like on the internet and like with branding, but that's not true, because we live in an interesting time where we live in like a niche market and a niche economy. So you can literally take your interest, however specific that may be, and you could bring it to the market to anyone that has the same interest, and they'll flock to that.
Mm-hmm. It just boils down to marketing and communication.
It really does. And so I'm a designer and you're a designer too, like mm-hmm. at heart. But like you said, marketing and communication, when you want to do a business like this, like whether it's clothing or selling your artwork online or whatever, I feel like a lot of designers and artists, they get too caught up in their craft mm-hmm. and they are not paying attention to all the back end work. So right now I view this project not as a design project but as a business. Mm-hmm. So what I'm really focused on is the business and marketing aspect of it. The design aspect is super important, of course, because let's be honest, if it doesn't look good, who's going to want it, right? Yeah. And the quality is important, but if no one is there to see your product, like if you don't market to the people and you don't understand the business behind it, it's kind of futile. Yeah. You'll be wasting your time. I mean, you'll have a great amount of work, but where's it going to go if you want it to become a business or whatever, it's not going to go anywhere unless you understand that side of it.
Yeah. You have to be holistic in your thinking when you're pitching this idea. And I think that is kind of the flaw of people who are either brand new designers or coming out of school. I mean, even us still, mm-hmm. like, we've experienced some level or some degree of success, but dude, we're 23.
Exactly.
We're still so young. We've got another 2 lifetimes of this before we reach like some, crazy wise sage of design level. Like there's so much time, there's so much space. Like, because we're young, we can flirt with all kinds of content and new mediums, Mm-hmm. You want to throw your stuff on TikTok? Do it. You want to try and squeeze out some value from like Twitter or Facebook? You can do it. Even the things where we're like, oh, this is a fading, like who's gonna, I'm not interested in this. There's always value. There's always people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I've actually been kind of afraid of with starting this podcast is how am I marketing? Who am I pitching this to? Because right now I'm like, oh, the creative community is I feel like mostly on Instagram or, mm-hmm. Dribbble or Pinterest. I have no idea how you would self-market content on Pinterest or Dribbble, but it's like what's the loss of trying to step into Facebook or mm-hmm. Twitter? Like how much time do I have to try and communicate with people?
Yeah, and so I have that mentality too, so I'm only 23, but I always feel like I'm behind, which is a blessing.
It's imposter syndrome.
It is.
Where you always feel like you're not part of something because of X, because of Y. You know, you don't feel like your project's good enough. You don't feel like your work experience is good enough. You don't feel like your personal skills or your pitching. I mean, everyone sucks at stuff like all the time. And the world is not built out of a bunch of super talented people. It's actually built out of really cohesive teams. That's where the success happens. Because you can't be perfect in and of yourself, but if you can communicate and work with the people who make up for your shortcomings or for your lack of knowledge, I mean, that's a successful team. Even personally, making sure that you're in a place where you're always learning, because that's the thing. It's not, am I good now? It's, am I progressing and growing?
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I definitely don't have this all together. There's like mistakes I make every day, but you have to constantly be learning and improving the process and moving forward. Like, I have a lot of people I look up to in business and design and stuff like that, and they're all like 30, 40, 50, and they've been doing their craft and their business for 15, 20, 25 years.
And even then, their famousness didn't start until like the last like 5 or 8.
Exactly.
Where you've got, it's exponential, where that first 10 years, like I honestly don't expect anything that I do to wind up going anywhere for the first 10 years of my career. First 10, 15 years.
Yeah, and anyone that is expecting that, they shouldn't, because you're going to be disappointed, and you might be doing your craft for the wrong reasons. Your passion is not going to show through that, because if you don't enjoy the process, you're not going to enjoy all of it. Like, you're just going to be disappointed.
I actually touched on that in the last episode. If you don't enjoy doing, you're not going to enjoy the completion, and the completion isn't going to be fulfilling. If the completion is the only thing you're striving for, then you're going to get let down every time.
Exactly. Like, is it really a story without pain? Like, that's what makes it a good story. That's what makes it a good process. Like, you putting in the work, you doing the time, like making the sacrifices. Like, I wake up every day, well, mostly every day, and I just want to like get to work. I want to do everything.
Some days you don't wake up. You sleep till the next day. Just done.
Out. I'm pretty organized, but I'm gonna be honest. Like, I sleep in sometimes, and I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just gotta hustle with it. You gotta keep going with it and not give up. And if you're really passionate about it, like, it will happen. Like, you're gonna put the hours in. You're gonna make the sacrifices, but the number one thing also is patience. Like, you have to do this for 2, 4, 10 years, like however long it takes. Just keep with it, and eventually, like, your work and your image and brand will shine through, and people will notice it.
Because we being young, we don't understand the longevity of things. We don't understand time. We just haven't had enough time to do anything. Even within your creative career, the first, it's like, imagine going back to when you first started designing or making anything. It was a solid 3 years of garbage. Honestly, I feel like that's what school is to give you 3 years to just get all the crap out of your system as you're learning. And then you finally reach the very end where, like, okay, now I can go out and produce on a good level.
Yeah, and that's what's cool. Like, I like we had the design program together at Western, and
is this going to be a shameless plug for our program?
Y'all should join, but it'll be difficult. Yeah. You can do it though. Once you do exit college, I feel like everyone does have a specific style, and I really like that. Like Owen and I were talking earlier. Like, one of our friends, he designs logos and stuff, and I would see his work on like vehicles and stuff, and I'd be like, I know that guy. Like, he designed that. That's his style, and like, it's recognizable. And I feel like that's a really good place to be as a designer. Like, not just like generic design, but you making your style, your craft, and creating business around that, or projecting that to companies and stuff.
Yeah, I think sometimes we'll look at like, oh, hey, we want to find our personal style. I think it's actually a question of how are you processing a creative problem, because if someone is a minimalist, there is a set of ideologies that they are adhering to as they're trying to solve that process. If they're more illustrator, they're much more bright and colorful. There's this idea of energy that they want to be putting out into the world. Like there are core things to each person's personality that deeply influence how they solve a creative problem, because the creative process is insanely personal. It's not some A to B. I genuinely do believe there is this little magic point in there where it is you processing information, reframing it and compartmentalizing, and then putting that out in some sort of product or some sort of logo type, like whatever. It's your interpretation.
Yeah.
And by definition, it's unique. Exactly. But people keep thinking that their work isn't unique, and we'll just like, I don't know if you've heard this, nothing is unique. Everything is built off of something else. No one, except for the caveman that beat two sticks together and got a pretty red color and started smearing it on a wall, was unique.
That's really true. Like even my brand, like there's been other people and other brands that have done similar things, but like Owen said, like nothing's unique, and we're kind of reinterpreting stuff because the earth has everything in it, right? So all we do is take what it has and redo it, reinterpret it.
Also, humans have really short memory spans, and we forget a lot of things, and so we need stuff to get retold to us and repeated all the time. So that's the nostalgia. Yeah, that's why nostalgia is so valuable. Look at the resurgence of, we'll just go say Minecraft or Pokemon or any of these things that we kind of enjoyed as a kid. Resurgence in fashion. I had a buddy of mine, he's way older than me, but he's like, I'm seeing kids in high school rocking mom jeans and 80s gear, and I'm getting flashbacks to when I was in high school, and it's like, look, fashion's circular.
Yep, it's all cyclical, and nothing's new. You just gotta put your spin on it, put your interpretation on it, tweak it, and have fun with it.
I mean, it is you processing information.
And to go on again, I listened to a documentary about Steve Jobs, and
is it the Netflix, or is it a podcast? I can't remember.
It was something on YouTube.
Bill Gates put out a documentary.
I listened to that one too. That one was good.
I need to watch that.
So, what Steve Jobs did, what I thought was interesting, was the computer already existed, but he looked at it and he was like, "All right, how can we make this better? And how can I put it into my vision?" Because the Apple computer that came out was his vision, and computers were still around and they're starting up. But it's cool how he created a company. I think is it valued at $1 trillion now?
Something like that.
Something close.
Ridiculous.
But that was literally like.
And when we say company, we're talking about Apple.
Yes.
We're talking about Apple. Right?
Exactly. Steve Jobs. Apple was the product of Steve Jobs' mind, his experiences, and his thinking. Yeah.
Do you think Apple's jumped the shark? Going off on a tangent. So I know some people have some really strong opinions about this. Do you think they jumped the shark?
Okay, I'm going to be honest. After Steve Jobs died and passed away, I didn't really like the way they're heading with the company, and even right now, they're taking some steps back because they're trying to emulate what it was before. They are changing the keyboard back to what it was before. I think is it called the butterfly?
Are they taking off? Do you mean the actual click and feel of it, or versus because the touch bar is great. I love that thing. Please don't take that away.
The click and feel of the keys. I think they're actually going back to what it was before, the older MacBooks, because they're better and they're more thought out. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of what they're doing right now. But I do they came out with the Apple Watch. That was totally cool.
That's pretty interesting.
And that's not when Steve Jobs was around. So they are doing some new stuff, which I like, and changing it.
I gotta say, from a kind of supply and demand perspective, them starting to sell their stuff on third-party websites like Amazon or Best Buy or their products. They really did not do that for a long time. The only place you could buy Mac products was from the Mac store or their online store. That to me is kind of an interesting shift in their business as far as them kind of opening up the floodgates, which they've always been notorious for really locking down their IP. Even from a developer's perspective, when I was working at an internship at a place called Ratio. I was good friends with one of the iOS developer teams, and they would complain a lot about how it was really hard to develop for Apple because their system for putting out apps and developing apps was really, really tight and controlled, versus just develop for anything Windows or any Android is a million times easier. But at the same time, that's kind of the problem with the Android, I feel like, platform, in my opinion, is security, where part of Apple's brand is that they're talking about safety, that you feel like your stuff is locked down, and security is a luxury almost.
Yeah, I feel like the reason why Apple is such a closed system, or it was, is, like I said again, it was probably Steve Jobs' vision, and I guess I'm kind of like that too. Like, so for example,
nice job there comparing yourself to Steve-O.
Well, let me get
good tangent there.
Let me get to that. I kind of am a control freak a little bit. Well, I guess a lot with my business. Like, it has to be a specific style, a specific way.
Yeah.
Which is good but bad. Like,
if it's your vision, then
Like, I guess one of my goals for the new year is to like release some of that creative control and maybe get more people on board and put their designs in and delegate tasks to other people, because eventually I do want to have like someone to hire and be an assistant and help me. My girlfriend Tanya right now, she does help me a lot with some of the other tasks while I'm designing, like folding shirts and packaging and helping me with that when people get orders.
You could be the next BFA intern. Maybe, I don't know. If you get a hip enough like office space, then you can probably sell it off as a way to.
Yeah, I do really want an office space. I'm in this really small apartment, so like I have quite an audience right now on Instagram, like not as big as I want to be, but just so everyone knows, like I'm just running this from my apartment. Like I just have some shelves here with some inventory, and you guys are buying it, and like all the customers, you guys are awesome.
Yeah. Shout out to the people who support, because it's been really fun to see your stuff grow, and where even if it's kind of little things, just like, hey, you got featured in, what was it, European Vogue?
Oh, it was
explain that.
I did some ad space with the British GQ magazine.
Yeah, so British GQ. There we go.
So I had like 3 issues where my shirts were in there, and it was pretty cool, and getting more of that audience like to see my work, like,
because you're pretty international with a lot of your shipping.
Yeah, I have shipped like to many countries all around the world. I do have a pretty large audience in Germany, which is cool because Germany has a rich history with like the Cold War and the Berlin Wall and all that. I am also like an 8th German, so that's also my blood, and it's really cool to see people like on the other side of the world like enjoying the brand and like telling their friends about it, having fun with it, and like it's totally related to me. Like that's like like a bonding.
It's yours. Oh, I just hit the pop filter there. Sorry, audience. Your story is impacting people who also really get your story, and I feel like that must be kind of a special thing.
Yeah, it is. We live in Washington State. That's where we're having this podcast right now, and there is a very large Russian and Ukrainian community, like Slavic community. And that also is what the brand is about too. It's not just like Russia and America. It really is like multicultural, because the Soviet Union is very multicultural, and me being an immigrant and my parents being immigrants, like we come here and like people from other countries, they know that experience and they know that story, so they can relate to, like, people from all over the world can relate to that. And it's also cool, like, so the community here, they also understand the brand pretty well, like the concept and stuff, and I really like that.
It's a fun time. Dude, thank you so much for chatting. This has been a fun little podcast, especially talking about your story, your brand. So appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you all for tuning in. I'll catch you on the next episode.